Hey, with you evening story channel, I post new interesting stories every day. Subscribe and click the bell to not miss it.
Flaming tongues greedily licked the roof of the old wooden barrack to pieces. Slate under the influence of high temperatures exploded and flew upwards, lighting up the night sky. The fire brigade was on the spot already 5 minutes after cable signal. Shouted to the chief of the guard electrician, now the guys without sharpening. Firefighters in the meantime were preparing equipment, and now the electricity is off. Hit the first jet of water. The fire was over in a few minutes. A baptism of fire. Liam, the strong, broad-shouldered driver Ivan, patted the shoulder of the young, stocky fireman. Liam took off his helmets, smiled tiredly. A few months ago, the guy came from the army and almost immediately got a job in the Ministry of Emergency Situations. Passed the course. And today was his first combat duty. The people coped well, all intact. Even the house was practically unharmed. Just the roof. But that's fixable. Liam felt a deep sense of satisfaction. He had helped people. Not alone, of course, together with other guys, but all already. Liam had always wanted to be a fireman, and now his dream has come true. He's on the team. After his parents died in a fire, it's been over 15 years. Liam was a 7-year-old boy saved by firefighters, but Mom and Dad didn't. He still remembers the horror when they carried him out of the fiery hell. And long ago, he swore to himself that when he grows up, he too will be a rescuer to help those who found themselves alone with the fire, although his grandmother, with whom he lived, was against it. It's a very dangerous job, but it's an honorable one. Liam persuaded her. What's the use of this honor? Sighed Kate's grandmother, who had lost her son in the fire, and added, there's no money to be made in such a job. It's not the money that makes you happy. Liam smiled at her. And Liam was indeed happy. He'd been seeing Nancy for 3 years now, and she was a nice-looking girl. She had waited for him from the army. Now they were thinking of getting married. Nancy worked in a cafe as a waitress. She lived with her parents and her little sister Betty. And so, in the morning after the first such serious duty, Liam went to Nancy in the cafe. The girl met him at the entrance. "Hi, sweetie. Are you here for a meal?" The girl was smiling and sincerely happy to meet her beloved. "No, Nancy is mine. I just want to see you for a minute." And that's what the guy stretched out its hand, which before that he hid behind his back, and in it a bouquet of chrysanthemums. Oh, they're beautiful. Nancy clutched the bouquet to her. "Thank you, Nancy. I was at a fire yesterday. Saved everyone," Liam said proudly. "I'll meet you tonight, and I'll tell you what it was like last night." The girl seemed a little confused. "Okay, but here's the deal. I'll pick you up at 8 o'clock. Liam waved to Natasha, who nodded uncertainly and ran off on her errands. In the evening, Liam stood at the door of the apartment of Natasha and their parents. The door was opened by Betty. "Hi, Liam. Nancy isn't here yet. She called and said she'd be late at work. Asked her to keep you entertained for a bit. Come on in." The girl laughed and tugged on the guy's sleeve. "She didn't warn me." Liam was upset. "Don't worry. There's a big order at the cafe." Betty shrugged nonchalantly. Anna and Peter, the parents of the girls, were happy to see Liam sitting at the table. There was tea and pastries. "It was me baking the cake that was important," Betty pointed out, setting Liam aside another slice. "It's delicious." The boy nodded his head affirmatively. "You see what a hostess I am. There are no free guys in your office. Betty, grow up a little and we will find you a fiancé." Liam laughed. "I'm already 16 on my head, Betty." That evening, Liam never waited. Nancy did not answer her phone. The guy was a little offended, but he didn't show it. "Don't worry about it, Liam. She's got a stupid job. Her mother and I have been telling her to quit for a long time. Nancy's father tried to justify his daughter, but she doesn't give a shit. Soon we'll apply for a marriage license. I'll make her quit her job." "Yes, it's not a job for a married woman," agreed Peter. The next morning, Nancy called herself. "Liam, I'm sorry for. I've been traveling." The girl was truly sorry. "Nancy, I'm not offended. I understand the work." "Liam, I won't be home till tonight." "They've all gone to the cottage. Come over." "Got it. I'm on my way." And already Liam is in Nancy's apartment. The girl threw herself at the neck of Liam's boyfriend. "My darling, only mine." The young people went to Nancy's room. "Nancy, I'll take over tomorrow for 24 hours. And the day after tomorrow, let's apply. How long do we have to wait? Liam suggested going to his room. All right, I'll call you. Nancy smiled confusedly. The duty went smoothly. Liam, joyful Chagall from the Friar, dialed. Nancy did not answer, and they were going to the registry office. And then unknown number called. Hello, Liam. Is this your girlfriend's partner? My name is Jenna. Liam. Nancy's cheating on you. She's currently at this address. I don't get it. Are you kidding me? Liam exclaimed. You don't believe me? Check it out. I just really want to open your eyes. Nancy has been cheating on you for a long time. I'm just a little offended that such a nice guy got such an insolent girl. The girl replied sharply and disconnected. And already Liam is rushing by cab to the other side of the city. There's the house, the apartment. Nobody opened the door for a long time. Liam was about to leave when the door opened, as Nancy stood shot in the legs in a hastily made robe. Liam, you. But this is even better. We should have talked a long time ago. Nancy, how could you? I didn't believe it till the last moment. A tan, brunette guy appeared behind Nancy. He's the one you dumped me for. Liam pushed the girl aside, intending to enter the apartment. His fists itched. Liam, please leave. Nancy screamed frantically. The next second, Liam felt a strong push in his back. He turned around, and there were 2 ambulances on the landing. They're the man's security guards. He called them on the phone. Liam was a short but physically strong guy. He knew how to fight, so he quickly grouped and responded to the blows with dignity. Still, there were 2 of them. They managed to twist Liam and took him to the yard. Kid, we got nothing against you, but don't go near that girl again. She's with our boss. Anyway, if you see her around again, you're on your own. Told him in the yard, the bigger one. He spat contemptuously, added the other bald guy with the big tattoo on his ear and his right arm. They pushed Liam onto the lawn and headed toward a black car parked nearby. Liam felt disgusted. Some scumbags had beaten him up. The girl had given him an appendage. The guy struggled to get up, fuck grass off his knees, and walked away. And in the evening, Nancy called. Liam at first did not want to pick up the phone, but then decided to answer. We need to talk. Liam was crying. Nancy, I'm sorry. I didn't dare to tell you everything. You are my first love, a bright feeling, and I will always remember you with warmth. But Camille, he came to our cafe like a hurricane. I fell in love for real. I'm sorry, he loves me too and wants to marry me. He has a big house in Turkey, big business. I asked you to marry him too. The resentment took the guy's breath away. Marriage? Nancy grinned sadly. Where would we live after we were married? My grandmother and I have a 3-room apartment. Isn't that enough for you? Liam, not enough. But in that case, I wish you happiness. Liam said firmly and disconnected the phone. And after that, endless days stretched for a week. Liam went on a bender. Kate's grandmother cringed, worried about her grandson, but there was nothing she could do. And at work, they were already counting absences. One day, their friend Nick dropped by. He worked the fire, too. Only in a different guardhouse. Liam was asleep on the bed after another bottle of whiskey. It's about time, Kate's grandmother said bitterly. Her son never drank, and her grandson suddenly snapped. Nothing happens. Nick sighed sympathetically. Don't worry, grandmother. I'll bring him back to his senses. Nick poured cold water from the tap into a large glass and poured it on the sleeping Liam's face. He jumped up, not understanding anything. Nick brought Liam some strong tea and began to tell him about business. The other day we rescued a girl in a fire. Yesterday, they carried out a pregnant woman. The doctors said they would save her and the baby. And today, the guys took out of a huge poplar a kitten laughing. But this kitten is the meaning of one old man's life. So you could say, and the old man was saved. Liam listened silently with his head down. And women, Liam, how many more will there be in your life? You'll find true love. Nick patted the guy on the shoulder. Forget it. She's not worthy of you. I've already forgotten it. She's dead to me, Liam replied. That's good. Come on, brother. Come to your senses. People in trouble need you. So little by little, Liam began to come to his senses. His friends didn't leave him. They came and supported him. The bosses went along with him because he was a good firefighter and gave him time off. Grandmother Kate patiently took care of her grandson. and the fact that Nancy's parents called, she didn't tell them. They, of course, were also shocked by what had happened, but that didn't make it any easier. Let them deal with their daughter now. She has love, so let her love it. 2 weeks later, Liam returned to work, and a year later, this story became just an unpleasant dream from him. Yes, there was love in his life, but whether it was love was more like falling in love. In general, Liam became a bit stale in his relationships with women. He'd had affairs, but they were fleeting, not serious. Kate's grandmother lamented that I'd be left without great-grandchildren. But Liam was a really good fireman. He'd go into the thick of things. He went on the most risky missions with that story. A few years went by. One day, the fire department received a signal that a private house on the outskirts of the city was on fire. Fire brigade moved out promptly, and in 10 minutes they were already on the spot. The residents themselves were already extinguishing the fire. The fire declared the roof, licked the walls from the outside, and from the inside puffs of smoke were bursting out. Where's the boy? Suddenly someone shouted from the volunteers, Jesus, he's probably in the house. The mother's at work, and today is a day off. The daycare center is closed. One of the neighbors, in confirmation of her words, in one of the windows seemed to move the curtain, and as if showed a boy who reached for the window handle. There it was again, yes. There's a child in the window, but there's no strength. He doesn't have the strength to open the window and the sashes. People are terrified, shouted Liam, water on me. Liam jumped up to his partner. Then you're crazy. Now the roof is going to collapse. Liam said a little, adding water pressure. The guys doused Liam, and now he had already broken the window and climbed into the house. The boy he saw immediately under the window by the wall, the child on swallowed smoke and almost did not breathe. Liam suddenly remembered himself small and miserable when the fireman had pulled him out of the fire. No, you're lying, you won't. Kid, you're going to live. Liam jumped out of the legal opening with the child in his arms, and at the last moment the roof collapsed from under the flying ambulance. A doctor jumped out. The boy was unconscious. After the necessary resuscitative actions, the medic reassured everyone will live. Where are you taking him? Tiredly asked Liam. To the First Hale Hospital. Come there tomorrow if you want to visit your godson. The doctor smiled cheerfully. Liam really wanted to. Now he cared about the fate of this little boy, who reminded him of himself for a second. The next day morning, he was already in the ward, where there was a boy of about 7 years old, as white-haired as Liam had been as a child. He was sitting on the bed reading a children's book. What are you reading, boy? Liam cautiously sat down on the edge of the bed and handed the boy 2 huge red apples. I don't know all the letters yet. I will go to school this fall. The boy eagerly accepted the apples. Who are you? Me? Yeah, I was a fireman yesterday, so you're the one who saved me. Mom, that's the fireman, he shouted. To the young woman who had just entered the room, Liam turned around. Betty was standing at the entrance. Grown up prettier, but still the same laughing girl, Nancy's sister. Betty, this is your son. Liam couldn't say another word. Hello, Liam. Betty turned visibly pale. Let's go outside and talk. Baby, I'll be right out. They went out into the hallway. Liam, it's your son. Betty can't be. Maybe Liam can. And Betty began her story with confused excitement, trying not to miss the most important things. Liam listened in silence and grew darker and darker every minute. It turns out that after the last meeting, Nancy flew with Camille to Turkey in a week. But all was not so rosy there. Camille turned out to be a pimp. He took away the girl's documents and sold her to a brothel. A month later, Nancy realized she was pregnant. By some miracle, she managed to carry the baby and give birth. It was Liam's baby. A month after giving birth, she managed to escape from the brothel and get to the embassy. That's where she told the whole story. The proceedings began, but after a couple of days, Nancy disappeared. Passers-by saw how she was put into a dark car and taken away in an unknown direction. That was the end of the case. All that was left was the baby. Nancy's parents had to work hard so that Betty could travel to Turkey and pick up the child. It wasn't easy. They had to pay bribes. Betty even tried to look for Natasha but failed. At the last moment, an embassy employee helped her and the child to board the plane. The child was very sick. Expensive treatment was required. After all the worries, the parents were gone. First the father, then the mother. Betty moved with the boy to an old house on the outskirts of town. She sold the apartment to cure the baby, and just recently her cell phone rang. It was Nancy. She was crying, begging for a decent upbringing for her son, and saying goodbye. She didn't have much time left to live. Another client had given her a dangerous disease. She spent her last days in a hospital for the homeless. Betty later learned that her sister had died. Why wasn't I told? Immediately, gritting her teeth after hearing this, Liam asked. Nancy begged for silence. She was ashamed of you. How stupid is all this? Liam took a few days to come to terms with what he had heard. He was getting used to the idea that he had a son now. He went to see the boy every day. The day he was discharged, Liam was at the hospital gate. He saw little Alex and Betty and went to meet them from afar. Well, rich boy on the mend, Liam picked up the boy in his arms. He laughed and clung to the man. And my mom told me that you're my dad. Suddenly he whispered in Liam's ear. Liam was confused, but immediately gathered his courage and nodded affirmatively. And you won't leave your mom and me? The boy trustingly looked the man straight in the eyes. From you and mom. No way. Alex, you also have a grandmother. We're going to go to our place now. Grandma Kate's baking pies like this. Liam held his son tightly to him and looked at Betty. The girl smiled embarrassedly and nodded back. Liam held the boy with one hand and hugged her with the other, and they all walked together. Yes, this was the man Betty had been waiting for all her life. They had been through so much, but now they would never part.